Okay, let's talk about something that so many experienced professionals find, well, just incredibly frustrating. You're over 40, you've got decades of amazing experience, but when you work with recruiters, it feels like you're sending your resume into a black hole, right? Well, today we are prying open that black box. We're going to show you the unwritten rules of the game so you can stop getting filtered out and start becoming the candidate recruiters actually fight over.
First off, let's be clear about why this matters so much. A staggering 72% of jobs that pay over $100,000 a year are filled through recruiters or internal referrals, so you simply can't afford to ignore them. The secret isn't to avoid them, it's to understand how they really operate, which, believe me, is something most people get completely wrong.
And here it is. This is the single most important truth that will change how you see everything. Recruiters are not your career coaches. They are not your friends. They are salespeople, period. Their product is you, and they only get paid, often a hefty 20 or 30% of your first year's salary, when they successfully close the deal.
So once you know that, their main motivation becomes crystal clear. Because they work on commission, they are laser-focused on presenting candidates who are a slam dunk. People who won't create any objections from the hiring manager. And here's the tough part for professionals over 40. Any hint of an age signal on your resume, whether it's fair or not, can be seen as a potential objection. So, to protect their paycheck and their relationship with the client, many recruiters will just filter you out before you even get a chance.
So today, we are handing you the playbook to flip this entire system in your favor. We're going to cover the recruiter's real game, the 4 main ways you're probably getting filtered, the playbook to become a premium candidate, how to build a resume specifically for them, how to manage a whole network of recruiters, and then a simple 2-week launch plan to get this all started.
All right, first things first, you gotta understand the invisible traps that are out there. There are 4 really common ways that experienced pros get kicked out of the running, and honestly, they often don't even realize they've made a crucial mistake.
Problem number 1 is talking to the wrong type of recruiter. You see, there are 4 different flavors. You've got your retained search firms for the big senior roles. You've got contingency recruiters for the mid-level stuff, internal recruiters who work for the company, and then staffing agencies for temp work. If you're a VP, sending your resume to a staffing agency it's a total waste of time for everyone. You have to match your level to their specialty.
Second mistake, the mass blast. We've all been there. You get a little desperate and you send your resume to like 50 recruiters at once. This is a catastrophic move. Why? Because recruiters in the same niche all talk to each other. When they all see your name pop up, they immediately back off to avoid a messy fight over who gets the commission. It just makes you look desperate and not at all like the premium candidate you are.
The third problem is something I call age signal amplification. See, a recruiter's reputation is on the line every single time they present someone. So they screen way more aggressively for things like being overqualified or not a culture fit, which are often just code words for age than a hiring manager might. They're just protecting their business, which means they're even more risk-averse than the company itself.
And finally, there's the passive candidate paradox. Now, this one's not fair, but it is 100% real. The very best jobs are almost always offered to people who aren't even looking for a job. The moment you approach a recruiter and say, "Hi, I'm an active job seeker," you've been put in a lower priority bucket than the professional they had to go out and hunt down on LinkedIn.
Okay, so that's all the bad news. That's the problem. But here is the solution, and it's a powerful one. You can completely shift this dynamic by adopting a new mindset. Stop being a job seeker and start acting like a high-value partner.
And it all begins with your pitch. You have to stop saying, "I'm looking for a new role." Instead, lead with your value. Frame yourself like a high-end product. Say something like, "I'm a VP of operations with 18 years in pharmaceutical manufacturing targeting SVP roles." You know what a recruiter hears? They don't hear a request. They hear the sound of a potential $50,000 commission check. Now that gets their attention. And please, don't just cold email them your resume. That's what everyone else does. Instead, use what's called the 3-touch approach to build a real relationship first. Touch 1. Connect on LinkedIn with a personal, specific note. A week later, touch 2. Share a relevant article or insight. It's only on touch 3 that you ask for a quick 15-minute call, not to ask for a job, but to discuss the market. By then, you're not just another applicant. You're a professional contact they'll actually prioritize.
Okay, now let's talk resumes, because the resume you send to a recruiter is fundamentally different from the one you'd upload to a company's website. It needs to be optimized for a human being who's going to spend maybe 30 seconds, if you're lucky, deciding if you're a fit.
It all comes down to their scanning hierarchy. And the very first thing they look for is your most recent job title, the company you worked for, and how long you were there. This little trio of facts instantly tells them your seniority, your caliber, and your stability. If that doesn't match what they're looking for, they're gone. They've moved on in seconds.
Next, their eyes are looking for compensation indicators. They're probably not going to ask you outright, but they are absolutely trying to estimate your salary based on your title and your responsibilities. Your resume needs to send a clear signal that you're in the right salary ballpark for the roles you want, not way too high and definitely not too low.
The third thing they're checking for is searchability. You have to remember, recruiters live inside their databases using Boolean searches. They're typing things like VP Operations and Pharmaceutical and FDA. You have to use those exact standard industry keywords. If their search can't find you, you're basically invisible. And finally, presentability. The recruiter is asking themselves one really simple question. Can I send this resume to my client right now? As is. A clean, polished, error-free resume makes you what they call a zero-friction candidate. And guess who gets presented first? The person who makes their job easy.
Okay, so once you have a few recruiters who are interested in you, the game shifts to a whole new level. Now it's all about managing those relationships strategically to maximize your opportunities without, causing total chaos.
First, be super wary of the exclusivity trap. A recruiter might ask to be the only person representing you. Now, you should only agree to that for one specific role where you know they have a fantastic relationship with the client. Never, ever agree to blanket exclusivity for months on end. It completely removes their urgency and just locks you out of the rest of the market.
You also need to have some clear rules of engagement. First, you have to prevent the disaster of a double submission, so track every single application in a simple spreadsheet. Second, you got to stay top of mind, so send a quick, valuable update every 2 or 3 weeks. Third, have a professional breakup protocol ready to go if a recruiter just isn't delivering for you. And finally, build a real partnership by giving them immediate, honest feedback after every single interview.
Okay, I know this is a lot of information, but the most important thing is actually putting it into practice. So, to make it easy, here's a clear, actionable 2-week plan to get you started on this new path.
In your first week, you're just going to research and find 8 to 10 recruiters who specialize in your field. Then you'll build that recruiter-ready resume, craft your value pitch, and set up your tracking spreadsheet. Simple. Then in week 2, you execute that 3-touch approach with your top 5 targets, have those first calls, and then start the whole process with the next 5. This is all about building methodical, steady momentum.
Because remember, the entire goal here is to give them a resume that's completely free of those little objections. No age signals, no keyword gaps, no weird formatting issues that give a nervous recruiter an easy reason to say no. That's exactly what tools like Pass the Scan are designed for, by the way. They help you spot those hidden red flags so you can create that zero-friction resume we've been talking about, the one that gets you presented, not filed away.
So look, the system might feel like it's stacked against experienced professionals, but it's not personal. It's just a system with its own set of rules and incentives. Once you understand that logic, you can play the game to your advantage. So the only real question left is, are you ready to become the kind of candidate that recruiters fight to place?